I am at Crater Lake National Park. I'm up on a little, just a little trail called, going to a place called Sun Notch, and it's going to overlook the rim of the crater into the lake, so that's going to be cool. I saw just little bits of it on the drive up yesterday, but man, these roads are treacherous. You're driving on the side of a mountain, and if you get too far to the right, you're going down the side of a mountain. There's no guardrails, nothing there to keep you from driving right over the edge. So as tempting as it is to want to look around and enjoy the scenery, man, you just can't do it, especially pulling a trailer. So today I got to, trailer to campground. I'm all settled in there. I'm just driving the truck up to some of these lookouts and stuff. So I'm going to pan around and show you Garfield Peak. This is an 8,000 foot peak that's along the edge of the crater. So that's pretty impressive. So this was a originally this was a 12,000 foot volcanic mountain, and they estimate about 7,700 years ago it had a major eruption, and in the millennia following that, the cone collapsed and created this huge crater that is now the lake. It's 5 feet, or 5 feet. It's 5 miles by 4 miles by about 1,950 feet deep. It's the deepest lake in the United States, and the water is exceptionally clear and blue. There are no rivers or streams that run into it, so it's fairly pristine, and average temperature is probably in the 30s or 40s. So basically about 8,000 years ago this thing blew its top, and it's still a volcano. It is not extinct. It's dormant right now, but there's still activity with it, so someday it may erupt again. And then there's just going to be some beautiful views coming up here in a little bit. Trekking up this, man, I'm winded already. It hasn't been that big of a trail, and it's easy. It's basically a footpath, but this elevation is kicking my butt a little bit. Yesterday morning I was on the coast of Oregon over in Newport, which, by the way, yesterday when I was at a little store in the campground here, they were selling individual bottles of beer. So I got a Rogue Pale Ale, and I read the bottle, and that's brewed in Newport, Oregon, right where I was. I didn't even know it. I had to stop by to see if you could tour their brewery, so found out a little too late on that one. Anyway, I was at sea level yesterday morning, and now I'm somewhere north of 6,000 feet, and that ain't easy. It sure ain't easy on a 56-year-old man. Here's Garfield Peak again. That's pretty cool. You can actually hike to the top of that. There's a trail, but I'm not going there. They'd be calling out first responders for me on that one. There is actually a short trail, about 2 miles long, right off of the campground. I'm staying at Mazama Campground. Mazama was the original name of this mountain that's now a huge crater, and so I'm going to do that trail either this evening or probably tomorrow morning. I'll get up early and hit it when it's cool. It's a little warm out here now. It's probably in the 80s, so I don't want to trash myself here. So anyhow, I'm getting close to the crater here. I'm going to stop videoing for a moment and then I'll start back up when I get up there. So I'll turn the camera around and give you guys a little taste of this. This is not the best vantage point. There's trees and stuff blocking a lot of it, but you'll get a feel for the lake. There's a little outcropping of rock down there. It's called Phantom Ship. That's just what somebody named it. And I don't know if you'll be able to see it on the video, but down in the water you can actually see some of the rock formations that continue down below the surface of the water. This water is just incredibly clear and it's incredibly blue, and I hope you can get a sense for that from the video here. But here's what I'm seeing. Here's a little better shot of Wizard Island. I wasn't clear in that little earlier piece, but that is actually an island out in the middle of what is now the lake. So obviously it's taken thousands of years for this to fill up with water like this, and that eruption probably occurred several thousand years, or that cinder cone was built several thousand years ago. So but it is an island out in the middle of out in the lake. It's not on the shoreline, and I don't know if you'll be able to see as I pan down around the shoreline how far down you can see in that water. It's like looking in the ocean, except it's just a deeper blue, but it would be like being out in the middle of an ocean and looking down at a coral reef or something like that. There's actually a little tour boat down there right now, and I'm sure the Park Service makes sure that boat is not putting any pollutants into the water. I would certainly hope that it is, because they don't allow boating in general or swimming or any activities on that water that aren't highly sanctioned by the National Park Service. But that water is incredibly clear and clean and pristine, and I'm sure they don't want anybody doing anything that would pollute the waters. So hopefully it's not leaking diesel fuel or something obnoxious like that. Yeah, I'm walking back down to the parking area, and just a couple of other little facts about Crater Lake here. I mentioned earlier that originally this was Mount Mazama, and it was 12,000 feet tall. Well, now the tallest rock structures around the crater are at 8,000 feet. So when this thing erupted and then kind of imploded, it lost 4,000 feet, or about a third of its height, which is huge. I mean, that's extraordinarily significant. And it just created this huge caldera as the eruption activity slowed down and ceased, and the lava stopped coming to the surface and everything, and all that cooled, it sealed, basically it sealed the bottom of the caldera, and you know, over thousands of years it has filled with water. And I think I mentioned earlier the depth of this thing at its deepest point is like 1,950 feet or thereabouts. So it is extraordinarily deep, and they've sent some deep ocean type probes down to the bottom, although they've explored very little of the depths of this lake. But they find organisms living down there, you know, where there's no sunlight and everything. There's actually huge beds of moss that ring the crater at some depth. I don't know what it's. They're quite a ways down. You really can't see them from the surface too much, but there's some pretty cool things going on in that water. I'm not sure about fish. I don't know. You know, maybe some got in there somehow or another, but since this thing is not fed by any other lakes or streams, it's very isolated, and I don't know what kind of other aquatic life would live in it, you know, besides flora. I'm not sure what fauna is in it, but pretty incredible to think that a mountain could have lost 4,000 feet of its height in a volcanic eruption and then collapse. So I'd hate to think what would happen if this thing had a huge eruption like Mount St. Helens. It would just vaporize a lot of that water. That would be, it would be awesome, but it would be horribly destructive. There's some other things too, and I don't know, maybe I'll get a chance to film some of them on my drive out tomorrow. They're pumice fields, and they're just huge fields, and there's no trees in them. There's some very small plants and flowers and things like that, but there are no pine trees growing in these pumice fields. And I don't know if, you know, for whatever, because, you know, all this stuff all happened, you know, over 7,000 years ago, but I don't know if there's something about that soil now that trees don't like to grow in it or what, but it's very striking how there can be just pine trees all over the place, and then there's this huge field and there's no trees growing in it at all. So yeah, this is a very cool place. So I'm trying to walk back down this trail to get back to the parking area, and every 40 or 50 feet there's some other wonderful view of this lake, and I don't know if I'll make it back to the car today or not, but this one, that is the bluest water that I have seen yet, and that is just extraordinary. And I hope that it comes through. I wish there was a way to zoom this this camera, and I'm sure you're hearing a lot of wind noise in the background. It's getting breezy up here, so I apologize for that, but man, that is just an extraordinary blue color, isn't it? Okay, so here's, I think it's going to be my last shot here. That rock formation that you see out there, I had mentioned that earlier, that's called Phantom Ship, and a guy was just telling me that that is actually part of the oldest portion of the volcano, and that rock is much harder than a lot of the other rock that was around it, and you can see where it has a little bit of a circular pattern to it when you look at that rock itself, and then the shoreline that starts to come out and meet it. But originally, I guess that original part of the cone survived the eruption and later implosion that formed the crater, and that's what's left of the original volcano here. So that's pretty cool too.